If you would like to see more videos like this in the future, then please consider joining my Patreon page. With just $1 a month, not only will you help the channel improve in quality and performance, but you can also help out the StoryBots production team and fans alike. Link in the description. In the year 1999, an online entertainment company called JibJab was created. It was founded by two brothers named Evan and Greg Spiridelis, who at the time had a fascination for animation and digital design. To this day, the company now focuses on producing customizable e-cards to send to your family and friends, ranging from various styles of your choosing. It wouldn't be until 13 years later, when the company wanted to expand their market into the world of kids media. And sure enough, they did just that. And thus, a legacy was born. StoryBots, the franchise, has been around since 2012, nearly 11 years of showtime. And in those 11 years, it produced 5 series, 2 specials, and a number of music videos. 272 songs to be exact. Today, however, we'll be taking a look at the series and specials that StoryBots has to offer and rank them all. This was a video I wanted to do for quite some time now. There's just something so amazing about ranking all these series and specials. For one, no one has ever done this before, and two, it'll be interesting to see how all these series and specials will fare amongst each other, and to see which one of them will rank on top. And by the end of this video, you might be surprised at what I have for my number 1 pick. Now before I get started with the ranking, I want to keep a few things in mind. 1. This video, as a whole, is entirely just my opinion, and all the things I say shouldn't really be considered hard fact. So feel free to like a special that I hate, or dislike a series that I love. That's what the comment section is for. 2. The only things I won't be including on the list are the StoryBots read-alongs, the arts and crafts compilations, and all the song collections in the StoryBots album. As much as I would love to include all these songs on the list, the songs themselves are unfortunately not enough to warrant them as being standalone series. But maybe I'll rank all those songs in a separate video, who knows. Finally, and this should be a no-brainer to anyone watching this, but major spoiler warning. If you have not watched any of the series and specials that I mentioned in this video, then I highly suggest you watch all those first before watching this video, as I'll be going into great detail about every aspect that went into these productions. Alrighty then, we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we're gonna be here for a while. So grab a snack and a drink, everyone, and without further ado, we'll start off with the worst of the worst. Number 7. A StoryBots space adventure. Is it even a contest? A StoryBots space adventure is the worst StoryBots special. In fact, it's the worst thing StoryBots has made, period. Nothing, I repeat, nothing deserves a spot better than this steaming pile of garbage. Not only is this the only production where Evan and Greg were not in full control of, but it's the only thing from StoryBots that just feels wrong. Everything from the characters, the dialogue, the humor, the reused animation, the music, everything makes no sense. I've already done a huge video covering this train wreck of a special, so if you haven't already, I'll provide a link down in the description if you want to see it for yourself, as most of the stuff I'll say here will come directly from the review. But on this latest rewatch, I did discover some things that I haven't before, and now have a deeper insight on why the special ended up this way. However, that doesn't change my stance on the special. I still hate it, and everything from that review I still stand by, including that the plot itself is just so convoluted. I blame this specifically on why the special was greenlit in the first place. It was simply made to promote Elon Musk's new space team by using the StoryBots as a marketing tool. The fact they use the StoryBots as a tool really speaks volume on how corporate this special really is. And as we'll see later on in the video, StoryBots is far from a corporate company. With all these corporate decisions and tight restraints to meet a deadline, it's no wonder people had a negative reception for it. This is not StoryBots, it doesn't feel like StoryBots, and is definitely not perfect. Now you might be thinking to yourself, it's a bad special, so what? All franchises have their ups and downs. And I agree. But what makes Space Adventure especially bad, and something I forgot to mention in my review, is that it fundamentally ruined StoryBots' perfect track record. Everything that StoryBots has made up to this point was crafted so brilliantly by a massive team of creators filled to the brim with ideas. It wasn't made for money, it was made with passion. But then comes in this special, where everything is basically thrown out the window and is replaced by new mandates that stoop down to the intelligence of a literal toddler. If someone wanted to watch StoryBots for the first time and they saw this special first, then they probably wouldn't be interested in the series and leaves a bad first impression for the StoryBots. Had this special not exist at all, then the StoryBots would have been a flawless franchise from the very beginning. Thankfully though, a StoryBots space adventure is not canon. At least I don't think it is. Nothing from the special is ever mentioned again, it's just right back to business as usual. I honestly would have done the same thing in their position. But Space Adventure's stain was forever on the franchise, and serves as an ugly reminder of what StoryBots shouldn't be. A rushed, boring, cheap excuse for a cash grab. As I said before, I don't believe anyone besides Evan and Greg can't make good StoryBots content. It's definitely feasible. And if there's something I proved in my review, it's the fact that it is possible to make good stories without Evan and Greg. There still can be passion even without the original creators. But this special has nothing of it. If you don't have passion in a project, then it's going to end up terrible. And that's why I'm giving it a terrible score. And it's the only thing on this list that is getting a massive F. It fails to show what StoryBots is capable of and is bogged down with corporate decisions that make it an unpleasant experience for the casual viewer. And after this video, I don't see myself wanting to watch this special anytime sooner. Ouch. Okay, now that we've gotten the obvious out of the way, we can now properly start this list. And I'm just going to say from here on out, everything will have a noticeable step up in quality, which in turn will make it pretty difficult for me to rank all these series, but I'm going to try to do so nonetheless. Here we go. Number 6. StoryBots Laugh, Learn, Sing, or as it's commonly known as
StoryBots Learn to Read.
Alright, now we're talking. This is essentially a 2-volume collection of read-alongs and sing-alongs from the StoryBots. I know I mentioned before that I wouldn't be including any of the read-alongs or sing-alongs in this video, but this one's a special case, as it's the only collection to have a featured listing on Netflix, and since Netflix labels it as a series, it counts. But how does it compare to the other series on this list? Well, not by much. This is just a song collection, and doesn't have any of the aspects that the other series on this list strive so much on, like the witty dialogue, the funny humor, or its ever so charming characters. So does this mean that this is a bad series overall? Absolutely not. This is not another space adventure where pretty much nobody gave a damn into the production. That's not the case here. There was a clear effort put into this series, even having the creators flat out say how much they loved working for them. And that's going to be a main thing for this video moving forward, and the series that we've yet to talk about. So what exactly does this collection have to offer? Well, let's find out. We'll start with the first collection. The alphabet songs were in fact the first ever project that Evan and Greg made for the StoryBots. It was truly remarkable and revolutionary for its time. Having a big collaborative project of various different styled animators was really a fascinating sight to see at the time. You could tell they were having a lot of fun with the animation and all the different styles they were going for. And those different styles of animation would also become a mainstay for the franchise up until the present day. So when Netflix wanted to make a new series for the StoryBots, they did so with a twist. The first half of the collection covers the alphabet songs we know so very much. But the second half of the collection is where things get interesting. They cover the read-alongs for their respected songs, and these read-alongs were once only exclusive on the now defunct StoryBots Classroom. So these read-alongs were essentially lost media before this collection, and it's nice to see Netflix pay homage to this once beloved piece of entertainment. It's strange, however, that the other read-alongs from the official Netflix Junior's YouTube channel didn't receive a collection on Netflix, like the space read-alongs, the vehicle read-alongs, or even the dinosaur read-alongs. I'm not sure if Netflix will ever adapt these to their library, but maybe they'll add them in a separate collection. Who knows? Only time will tell. Overall, I think this is a really good collection from Netflix. Not only does it showcase the very first project that Jib Jab has made, but it does a good job on preserving lost media in a fashionable way, one that you'd think Netflix would never do in the first place. This alone would make it a great series in my opinion, and a great way of teaching kids about the wonders of the alphabet. But Netflix wanted to do more than that. And in the year 2022, Evan and Greg had something up their sleeves that would surely surprise us all. Cue the second collection. When I first saw this collection on Netflix, I didn't know what to say except, wow, that was amazing. These are 30 brand new songs from the StoryBots that teach kids about the basics of letter sounds and phonics. It's a simple concept that's been done numerous times already, but the execution here is just brilliant. During production of the series, music composer Gabe Shokolov was tasked with writing up 30 new songs for the StoryBots. He's also the person responsible for the theme song of Ask the StoryBots. And I gotta say, his renditions here are absolutely gorgeous to listen to. The fact he sung and composed all those 30 songs just for this one collection really has his dedication on full display here. None of his songs feel lazy or out of place. They all serve their purpose and do so in a pleasant way that appeals to everyone. Each one of these songs are different in their own way and have a different genre attached to it, whether it be a full-on jazz performance.
I want you to know the two sounds of O. There's the short and long sound. Here's how they go.
Classic country music.
You got short sound of E and long sound of E.
A sea shanty.
Yo ho, he sails to the port. A shot from his cannon will always be short.
And sometimes genres in between.
They're what we call homophones. Like rain and rain, they're homophones. Different words that sound the same.
As for the animation, it too was done brilliantly. We get a lot of varied styled animations this time around. And just like with the music, they also have a unique personality. Every music video in this collection has a different theme going for it, such as a train going through a snowy mountain, or the StoryBots watching a movie in the cinema, or Bang taking a vacation at a luxurious hotel, or Bing acting like a superhero and fighting crime, or even the StoryBots taking a freaking bath. The possibilities here are endless, and I love it. That freedom, that experimentation the team were after, really shows here. Unlike most kids' channels where they have little to no substance and creativity, it's series like this that shows how much dedication the team had for the franchise and how much of an impact it had for all ages, not just for kids. There are also references that only the adults would get, like this one of Dr. Seuss, the Rolling Stones, and even K-pop gets a mention. You can once again tell that the team had lots of fun incorporating all these ideas into this series. And even though it's just a music collection at the end of the day, it doesn't make it any less shy from being so creative. How wonderful is that? I would love to rank this series higher and put it amongst the other amazing series on this list. But after all that's considered, there's really no other place to put it. As the other series we'll talk about later will have more storytelling, humorous dialogue, and character-driven aspects that just make it, well, better. For that, I'm frustrated with it, because now this amazing collection has to be next to this piece of monstrosity. But just because it's this low on the list doesn't make it any more terrible. This is still a great collection, and is a fine addition to StoryBots' already amazing lineup. And it just goes to show how much dedication you can have for a series that's mainly focused around basic reading skills. I think modern kids' content nowadays really need to strive to be more creative like this, instead of always choosing the lazy path of learning. And this series, and everything else on this list on that matter, are great examples of what happens when you're not lazy. And when you try, you gain respect. And that's what I'm giving it. I give StoryBots Laugh, Learn, Sing a solid B. It may just be a song collection, but don't let your eyes deceive you. Give this one a listen. You'll sure be in for a treat. Alright, we're down to the top 5, and this is where things start to get a bit difficult, as any of these picks I have moving forward can be classified as your favorite series, because pretty much all of them have so much care and passion from the team, it makes it pretty hard to rank them amongst each other. They're all extremely good, with little to nothing bad to say about them. So which one of these series will start the list? Well, for number 5, I have StoryBots Super Songs. Wow, what a fun series this was! StoryBots Super Songs is the companion series to the ever so popular Ask the StoryBots, sporting the same animation and the same style of writing as the previous series. This was made at a time during Jib Jab's early years, when StoryBots was once an independent company, so that early feel of Jib Jab is so present here. This was made around the same time as Ask the StoryBots, coinciding with its release. It was a fun little side project that the team had during the making of their other bigger series, and apparently, they had more plans for this small series, but the plans fell short, and the series ended up being cancelled that same year. So what came to be of this short-lived series, and why was it canned so soon? Well, let's take a deeper look, shall we? I like to think of this series as the predecessor of Ask the StoryBots, a prequel series you could say. Why do I think that, you may ask? It's rather simple, actually. Notice how the StoryBots are never referred to as an answer team throughout this whole series. Not even in the theme song do they refer to them as such.
Let's follow beat, bing bang, boop and bo.
But one thing they do show is that the StoryBots were friends way before they became an answer team. This makes sense, as to have a good team, connections between your teammates are vital, and having them be friends before teaming up only strengthens their relationship, which is why they are so closely bonded together. You could argue that Hap's presence in the series kinda breaks the continuity of it being a prequel, but I respectfully disagree. He only appears in one episode, and even so, he's never referred to as the boss or the authority figure to them. The audience knows who he is thanks to Ask the StoryBots, but in this timeline, he's just another StoryBot just like them, only now a grumpy, overworked character. So what's the structure like for this series? Technically speaking, this is also another song collection. It is in their title after all. But at the same time, it's also not. Yes, there are songs, and they do take up half the runtime, sure, but the real selling point here, in my opinion at least, is the stuff that happens in between the songs. The interactions with the StoryBots themselves, and the interactions they have with the children. Weirdly enough, there's one aspect about StoryBot Super Songs that doesn't really get talked about by many people, and it's one I think should be worth addressing. And that's the kids' involvement in the series. Kids being involved in StoryBots is nothing new. We've all seen it plenty of times before in Ask the StoryBots, and the concept is still heavily used to this day in its current series StoryBots Answer Time. But how StoryBots Super Songs handled it is truly marvelous. When the kids are asked questions by the StoryBots, they give a natural and appropriate taste in their performance. It honestly really stands out, not just from a practical standpoint, but in a realistic sense too. Nothing feels staged or scripted in that matter. It's all so real, genuine, and believable. My personal favorite part of the series is where they take the kids' audio as is and animate over it to create a beautiful narrative. This is really unique, and something that's never been done before. It's so entertaining to see the kids have the freedom to say whatever they want, and the team once again being so creative in the animation department. Like, take a listen to some of these.
Move your mouth and speak.
A boat is something awesome. I'm a boat and I can float but move.
What are you?
I don't know. What are you?
I don't know. I'm circle. Wait, yeah. I'm circle and you're square. No, you're square. And then you're circle. Yeah. Wait, no. You're square, sir, and then I'm I'm circle and you're square. No, this, I think it's, I'm square and you are, circle. No, wait, you know what? I don't know.
Okay, tell me those weren't scripted. Let's now talk about the characters. As it being one of the first series in the franchise, it's important to set up your characters so that your audience knows who's playing a role in the show. I'll talk about it more in Ask the StoryBots, but I really like how simple they are in design. They don't have any overly complicated or wacky designs, they're just made with simple shapes and simple colors that the kids can easily distinguish. Just one look at their designs and you can immediately tell who is who without breaking a sweat. They're all distinctively different amongst each other, which is important, since you don't want your kids to be confused if one StoryBot were to look the same or whatnot. And I think that's genius design on their end. Their personalities are also very simple. They're not as fleshed out or expanded upon like the later series, but they weren't trying to go for that in this series. They wanted a more simplified cast, one that's easy to follow for their young audience. Beep is always the voice of reason and the more sensible one of the group. Bang is mainly laid back and easygoing. Bing is hyperactive and has lots of energy. Bo has a big heart and a bundle of emotions, and Boop is seen as the perpetual grump and goes for the simplest path of life. Really great characters here, but the approach is very simple in that regard. And that's pretty much the entire series in a nutshell. The whole atmosphere and the concept behind this entire show feels quaint, but in the best possible way. The characters are all simple, with simple motivations and goals, the simple approach to its humor while still being very effective, and there's no grand overarching plot across the episodes. It's just fun. Fun, supplementary, experimental StoryBots content. The team once again had a lot of creative thought put into this project, which just goes to show that something simple you can have can turn into something truly magical. And that's an accomplishment in its own right. Now, you might be wondering, why was this series so short-lived? This was one of the first projects from the StoryBots, but it only lasted a mere 10 episodes in its entire lifespan. And there were alleged plans for the series to receive a season 2. So why exactly did they drop the plans altogether? It's possible that the creators just simply ran out of ideas and had no other way of continuing the series any further, but the answer here is actually pretty straightforward. People were just not interested. This is honestly pretty shocking, as this is the only project possibly ever to be flat out cancelled by the creators themselves. But the reason behind it is kind of understandable. Remember, this was made around the same time as Asa StoryBots, and that show was well received by fans and critics. But people didn't come into this wanting to see more of this small series. They naturally wanted more Asa StoryBots. And they got it, with a feature-length special and 2 additional seasons coming after their success. Even if Super Songs were to get its second season as it was originally planned, I honestly don't see it lasting that long either. With its low demand from its audience, it would be rather pointless to continue the series if no one really wants to see any more out of it. But it is still a shame that we never got to see what this season 2 would have been like, or what it had to offer. Even so, StoryBots Super Songs is still a marvelous series, and there is still some merit into this small project. It's another great example of the team's commitment to make StoryBots enjoyable for all ages, and it once again shows here. While I highly doubt that they'll ever touch upon the series again given its cancellation, I'd like to see more projects like this in the future, projects on the smaller side of things that is. It's like they always say, big things can come in small packages. And that's exactly what we got here. I give StoryBots Super Songs a B+, a great supporting show to an already fantastic series. Give this one a watch. Number 4. Super Silly Stories with Bo. Okay, it's spin-off time. This is simply, you guessed it, a spin-off series from the StoryBots franchise. This one being centered around the ever-so-lovable Storybot, Bolina Bumblefoot, or Bo for short. She is voiced by the one and only Erin Fitzgerald, who's worked on previous roles such as Naz and May from the Ed, Edd n Eddy series, Parasol from Skullgirls, and Chie from Persona 4. She has quite the library of voice acting roles throughout her career, but never did she ever voice a protagonist in her own devoted series. Until now. Bo is front and center stage, and everything in this series lies in her hands. And a few little guys too. There is a lot to unpack here with this little series, so let's dive in and see why this spin-off is so, well, silly. The story behind this little spin-off series is honestly quite fascinating to me. Around early 2021, an announcement was made that a brand new series was in the works for the StoryBots, and kids had the opportunity of sending videos to the StoryBots crew. The way the crew went around doing this was through online video calls, posing the StoryBots as members of the outreach department. The kids who sent submissions to the StoryBots would also have a chance to talk to one of the real StoryBots via video call, which honestly sounds pretty amazing. I wish they did more of these. That would have been so cool.
Oh, how's your day going? It's going pretty good today, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Well, hey, listen, my name is Gerald, and I work at the StoryBots Outreach Department. It's my job to spend all day talking to cool kids around the world, just like you. Pretty neat, huh?
Half of the video submissions from the kids would be used for StoryBots Answer Time, which we'll get to later down the line. The other half of the videos would be used for a new spin-off show that would premiere on Netflix Junior's YouTube channel. Strangely, however, you can't view this series on Netflix's website. You can only watch this series on Netflix Junior's YouTube channel, and it's the only series on this list that can only be viewed exclusively on YouTube, which I find pretty interesting if I'm being honest. The series was directed by Henry Dalton, and this would be his only contribution to the StoryBots franchise. But I think he did a phenomenal job making this series. The team wanted to make something different to what they previously made, but they also wanted it to be funny and have that be the main gimmick of the new spin-off. And to my surprise, it works. It works because of the creative direction that Dalton wanted for this new series, and I think that can attribute to his previous works before StoryBots. In his previous works, his projects were more on the wacky side of things, and had a funny, but yet silly appeal towards his audience. And the direction they wanted to go for with this spin-off really shows here. Having the kids be the main source of these silly shenanigans, and having it be a spin-off of one of the main StoryBots was pretty cleverly crafted by the production team. Speaking of which, let's now talk about Erin Fitzgerald for a second. She's the current voice actor of Bo, and has played her and numerous other roles in StoryBots since 2016. There was, however, another moment in the show where Erin got her true spotlight, and it was here where I personally think that Erin's best performance was truly shown. But don't worry, I'll get there. So imagine how stoked Erin was that she'd be playing the main character in her own spin-off show. It must have been really exciting news to hear at the time, so much to a point where the series itself ended up being nominated for 2 Kids Screen Awards. Seriously, I'm not joking. This small series was nominated by a large media outlet, and that is extremely impressive coming from a small spin-off. Now let's see why this spin-off is so highly regarded by taking a look at its structure. It's story time in the answer department, and Bo is getting ready to tell the kids a wonderful story. On the surface, it sounds like a pretty straightforward idea that's been done time and time again. But that's where the fun begins, and why the series stands out so much.
He's standing right behind me, isn't he?
The kids are feeling a little mischievous, and have a few tricks up their sleeves. The storybook opens up, and Bo starts explaining to the kids and what the story is going to be about. But then, it all starts to go downhill.
Peanut butter,
Peanut butter?
bananas, and chicken nugget, donuts, popcorn, a steam train, a poisonous snake. Wait, what? Exploded! A spider!
Oh! That was a first edition!
Laser battle! So Head and a goat. And a chicken. Mustard. Pasta. Nacho. Shampoo. Rattle. Piano. Pogo stick. I can sing a StoryBots song.
You can?
Tiger in the jungle. Tiger in the jungle.
No, you'll get that stuck in my head!
Tiger in the jungle. Tiger in the jungle. That's why sauce wet. Bomb. 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 Bomb.
That's a lot of bombs!
Donut. Yeti and robots. A tiger. King. A gorilla. Butterflies. With laser guns. Storytime room.
What? Wait! Oh, I didn't know the playground would be quite this close! What?
Space station. Train station. Pirate ship zoo. Disco. The Golden Gate. Mount Rushmore. Great Wall of China.
Kids!
Iguana. To a car factory.
Back to HQ! Back to HQ!
Go! What are you doing here again? Go! Read! Rhyme! Educate! Inform! Entertain!
Okay, I think you get the picture. This entire spin-off is one of the most chaotic things I've ever seen from the StoryBots. No other series manages to be this crazy or outlandish than what these kids have performed for us all. This whole thing just feels so ridiculous. But that was the point. They intentionally wanted this series to be incredibly silly and took full advantage of their creative freedom that they had since their very beginnings. Nothing has to make sense here because it's just a story and there's no realistic boundaries the team have to jump across. And because of that, I love it. Of course, there are other things I really enjoyed about this spin-off, such as the different styles of genres they delve into. We get stories about pirates, gothic horror, a musical, superheroes, a birthday party, a mystery, a sci-fi, and so many others. No story feels the same or sounds the same, which adds really nice variation to this spin-off. And sometimes, they don't have to follow the same formula for each episode. Like Bo, for instance, doesn't always have to be the storyteller for every story. In the 19th episode, Picking a Pet, Hap was sent over as a replacement when Bo couldn't make it in time for story time. Much to his disdain, he found the kids rather annoying, always telling them that they should stop changing the story every time, which they are infamously known for doing. When Bo finally arrives midway through the episode, she explains to Hap that this is what they like to do. They make silly ideas because they all have a creative mindset. Surprisingly, Hap gets inspired by this, and then starts making up his own silly ideas for the story. And this right here is the only moment in the entire franchise where Hap is shown to be more than just his grumpy old self. It then suddenly clicked into his head, and then he realized his mistake, that he just dilly-dallied, something that he hates with a passion.
Oh my gosh! What am I doing? I just dilly-dallied! See what you kids made me do? I got phones to answer and work to do! Gotta go! Bye! Work!
Pretty neat characterization there. I like it. It's also worth noting that it doesn't always have to be a storybook either. Like in my personal favorite episode, Lollipop Mountain, it shows Bo making her own video game and taking the kids' suggestions as pieces of code in her game. Well, most of them at least.
What color should the tunic be?
Green.
Probably should avoid that legally.
Oh, Erin, you sly dog. It's pretty funny too, since Erin herself is a Twitch streamer, and her experience working on video games was incorporated brilliantly into this episode. And as a fellow gamer myself, I found nearly every single reference to be both astounding and hilarious. Easily one of my favorite episodes. I also like how they world build in this series, particularly in the last episode. In that story, Bo is seen exploring the answer department in a new perspective, one that we never saw in the series prior. And it's even more cool when we get to see characters from Answer Time appear, making them more relevant in the series. Pretty good addition there. But there is one more aspect about this spin-off that I see no one else talking about, and one that isn't present in any other series. And that's how this spin-off comes to a satisfying conclusion. In the last episode, Bo is frantically trying to find a new story after the old one got destroyed by a troll. She goes to every place to find an answer, but to no avail. As the story is about to end, the kids think it's about time that they repay her debts by giving her a well-deserved vacation. This ending couldn't have been more satisfying for the viewer. Bo was the one who made all the kids happy by telling the silly stories, so it's only fair for the kids to simply return the favor by making her happy, giving her sunglasses and unicorns to play with. This was the best day Bo has ever experienced, and it's all thanks to the kids who stuck around to the very end. Bo really loves the kids, and the kids really love Bo. It honestly couldn't have felt more endearing to me. And with that, the spin-off ends, in a rather fashionable way I may add.
Tidal waves.
Oh, brother!
This series was a train ride start to finish, and like all the series on this list, it surprised me. It surprised me on how incredibly funny and entertaining a little spin-off can truly showcase. I don't know if the spin-off will ever continue after this, but if I'm being honest, I don't think it needs to. It already reached its solid conclusion, so there's really no need for it to continue. But if they really wanted to make another spin-off, maybe it could be around another StoryBot. Maybe Bang, or Beep, or Bing, or Boop, who knows? It's definitely possible. This is one of Erin's best works, and it's very clear to see why. I give Super Silly Stories of Bo a B+, an extremely well-crafted spin-off. And if you thought that was amazing, wait until you see what's next in line. It just keeps getting better from here. Well, we're down to 3 now, and this is the make it or break it situation. 2 of these picks are considered to be the best of the best from the franchise, and choosing between the 2 series was pretty challenging to decide, as both of them are extremely well crafted and have similar aspects to each other. But after careful consideration, I think I've made my decision. So which one will take the bronze of the list? Well, for number 3, I'll have to put down StoryBots Answer Time. Holy cow, what a ride that was. StoryBots Answer Time is Netflix's latest creation. After going 3 years without any content, the StoryBots made their triumphant return with a brand new series. The same creators, the same voice actors, the same composers, the same animators all came back to make one more beautiful package for us. And man oh man, is there a lot to talk about. There is so much good stuff about this series, and this will probably be the lengthiest part in this entire video. So buckle up everyone, we're gonna be in for a doozy. Quite literally. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you one of StoryBots' finest works, StoryBots Answer Time. Let's start with talking about one of Answer Time's strongest aspects, the animation. StoryBots animation is, and always has been, a main staple for the franchise. Its unique style of animation has been a thing since its very roots back in 2012, and ever since then, they went on to evolve the animation into lots of different styles of mediums. But when Answer Time came into production, they went all out on the animation, more than any modern company can accomplish. We're talking over 100 different styles of animations. That is an insane amount. But there's also an interesting story on how it all came to be, and it's a rather interesting one too. When they were making this, it was during a time where the world was in complete shutdown mode. The global pandemic of 2020 had a huge impact for all animation studios at the time, forcing everyone to work at home and limiting their options when it came to their flexibility. And since the StoryBots was once a small company in California, the new restrictions that they had made it pretty inconvenient for them, making what they had previously now an impossible task that they don't have the resources to do anymore. But despite all that, Netflix insisted that the crew make more StoryBots content, specifically focusing on spin-offs this time around, as evident in this recent interview with one of the creators.
So we're actually producing what are called spin-off shows that take the original concept and then explore them in different ways. And so that's kind of where most of our creative effort is being focused these days.
So you might be asking, how would they accomplish such a feat? Probably the most genius thing they could have done. They took their little company and expanded their market across the world. We see a lot more animation companies this time around, some going as far as Europe of all places. And every single animator who worked on the show, I think really gave it their all outs here, producing some of the best work that they've ever made in their whole career. That in itself is an amazing achievement for an animator. And I'm not joking when I say this, but some of these animators genuinely surprised me appearing on this show. Jordan Koch, for instance, was a storyboard artist in the series and has previously worked on many Nickelodeon properties like SpongeBob and The Loud House. Michael Rocco, another animator, has worked on shows like Looney Tunes, The Cuphead Show, and even Hell of a Boss. And the biggest surprise for me at least, was the inclusion of Mike and Matt Chapman, aka the original creators of Homestar Runner. Yeah, I'm not kidding with you. They actually hired people who were responsible for a silly web series, and they now work for a public children's program. That is both crazy and hysterical to think about. God, imagine if Jack and Jellyfy were to work for StoryBots. I would actually be in tears if that were to become true. But getting back on track, I think the idea of collaborating with all these talented people was absolutely the best part about working on this project. There is so much talent you can find even in the smallest teams of animation, because everyone has potential, and the brothers wanted to see the best of everyone, in their creativeness and their talent. Evan even explained all this talent that he found in a recent interview.
I truly believe talent is everywhere, and the internet enables us to work with talent everywhere. But I do think the team is amazing, and everyone knows what they have to do, and they do their thing, which is great.
And it was great. They made the animation in this series as unique as possible. They didn't try to go over the top or try to stand out from everything else. It just tried to be its own thing, and that's what I can appreciate about it the most. You never know what you're going to be expecting most of the time, and this not only goes for the animation, but the plot lines as well. It could be 2D, 3D, stop motion, puppetry, hand-drawn, or even some styles mixed together. You know what this reminds me of? Those little animated segments from Sesame Street. That show also has unique styles of animation, dating all the way back to the 1960s. This has been their inspiration piece since their very beginnings. But Answer Time really amplifies that sensation here, having some segments directly referencing Sesame Street's other properties, and boarding members from Sesame Street into their segments, like having Frank Oz and Dank Olaz being the voices of Dink and Doink respectively. I find that pretty amusing. Good stuff here. Also, I really like when this happens. Let's now shift our focus to the characters. The characters this time around are incredibly strong here. I mean, they always have, since As the StoryBots was around. We've always known Team 341B as a one-of-a-kind, a force to be reckoned with, and having interactions that feel pretty natural to the characters. As I said before, they all have a unique personality and they stand out from one another. Each one of the members have a purpose, and together they form the bigger picture that we know as Answer Team 341B. So when Answer Time came into pre-production, they wanted to make this series a more character-driven show, focusing more time on the characters that we know, and expanding their characters to sides we never saw them prior. But you might be wondering, how can you expand your characters in an already established ensemble? Simple. You split them up. Answer Time focuses on Team 341B as separate individuals. I think that was a smart move by the team. We already know what the characters are like in the series before, but the only time we saw them in play were in interactions with each other, and them being together as a team. So seeing them being treated as separate characters feels like a breath of fresh air, and explores new options the team can have for branching out their existing characters. No character gets more screen time than the other, they all get their fair share of spotlight episodes, and they all have their really strong character moments. Let's start with Beep. She's considered to be the leader of the group, and has a lot of stuff under her belt. When something doesn't go her way, she's not afraid to lash out at others for their incompetence.
Excuse me! What are you doing?
Cleaning up the leaves!
What? But there's no leaves here!
Not even finding enjoyment in the simplest of pranks.
Really? Hub and Bub? A whoopee cushion?
Totally unfazed. She's not all bossy though. Intelligence-wise, she's the smartest one in the group, and the more sensible one, overlooking certain aspects that the other StoryBots can't really comprehend. Like figuring out that the woman in the costume is actually a thief in the Keys episode, and calls in the proper authorities to arrest her in the process.
We just can't thank you enough, StoryBots. If you hadn't delayed the cat burglar, we might never have caught her.
What a smart cookie she is. It's also worth noting that she's a bit of a curious thinker in this series, and finds interest that sparks her curiosity, like the Critter Village game that she experienced at the F4 convention, which of course is a little nod to the Animal Crossing games.
Oh, look at the little outfits!
I really like that. I wish we get to see more of a character like this. Moving over to Bang, my personal favorite one in the series, he's a pretty complex character here. On the outside, most people see him as the chill, relaxed guy of the group that always takes it a step back and solves any problem with ease. But on the inside, there's a lot more to his character than meets the eye. Physically speaking, he's incredibly strong and can absolutely lift more than his own weight, as seen on multiple occasions. Emotionally speaking, however, he's rather weak to everything. He always expects the worst to happen whenever he truly messes up. Like when he absolutely destroyed Emmett's entire collection, he was ready for Emmett to give him a huge scolding and will accept any punishment given to him. This doesn't happen, of course, but the fact he was expecting it to happen really shows his true character on display. He's not the type of guy to fight in a battle. He's the type of guy to surrender right off the bat, and there's a reason for that. He doesn't think it's necessary to fight in a battle. Starting problems will ultimately get him nowhere in life. So if he can find common ground in his enemy, then there's really no need for him to use brute force here. He's like the gentle giant of the sort, and I find that really inspiring as a character, which is one of the reasons why I think he's my personal favorite of the bunch. Bing, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. He's the one to start chaos and does everything in his mind without proper planning, which some of the team find very problematic. He will physically go out of his way in the craziest scenarios to get what he's after. An adventure, which I may add almost got him killed on numerous occasions. He's a daredevil. He doesn't care if he gets a few scrapes on his body. He will continue to press on and explore that other side he longed to see. Because of his crazy nature, this often gets him into the most hectic of scenarios, like navigating an old temple filled with booby traps, or risking his life trying to fix a refrigerator, or even this gem of a scene right here.
1 4 makes 2 2s. Divide with us, Bing.
I love this show. I could definitely see why a lot of people love this guy. He may be a little ball of destruction, but he sure packs a punch, both emotionally and literally. Definitely a strong character here. Then we have Bo, another popular one by many. She's the biggest StoryBot of the group, not just in size, but in her emotions too. With a big StoryBot comes a big heart, and Bo's heart is plentiful. She can get very emotional around certain things, which can either end up being a good thing for her, or be something traumatically worse. Like in the Glass episode, when in just a few seconds, a little tiny crab appeared to be smushed by a giant machine, and no one else was paying enough attention to notice. The tension really builds up here, as Bo becomes more and more concerned. As the viewer, when we're actually trying to learn how glass is being made, at the same time, Bo can't really focus on anything else but the little crab. I mean, she just witnessed an animal being crushed to death. She had every right to be worried. The crab survives, of course, and made Bo's reaction a bit irrational here, but that didn't stop her from bursting into tears thinking the crab just died on the spot. You honestly kind of feel sorry for her at times, as her emotions can get to a point where they can no longer be controlled, and as a result, can bring an absolute wild performance to the audience. And I think that can be attributed mostly to Erin Fitzgerald's astounding performance on her character. Erin doesn't just play Bo, Erin is Bo, if that makes sense. If there's an idea or concept that Erin wants to bring to her character, the team are more than welcome to implement those concepts into reality, because hey, in this universe, anything is possible. She is extremely attached to this character, and it is felt greatly here. She is absolutely one of the most important characters in the entire franchise, and that's something to be incredibly proud of. I really love her. Finally, we have Boop, the old grump himself. Most people see Boop as the curmudgeon type, always having a grumpy persona and not giving a care in the world for anything he sees. In the series before, they didn't really do much with Boop. He had some moments, of course, but they didn't really do much with him character-wise. He was always pushed to the sidelines in most episodes, and his only defining personality was just grumpy StoryBot. Not really much story potential you can have with this character. When it came to Answer Time, however, they took that concept on its head and turned this once-nobody character into something truly magnificent. Now he's more than just grumpy, and can show other emotions whenever he's invested in something, like finding a weird, yet somewhat hilarious interest in this Carrot song.
Carrots! Oh,
Boop? Yeah. What are you doing?
I really love that moment. I think the best example of his character being shown is in the taxes episode. You know, the one where Boop somehow got elected as president for the StoryBots and unintentionally caused worldwide destruction in the process? Yeah, that one. It shows he has a more caring side for everyone and will do whatever he has to do to make everyone else happy. If he was just that grumpy guy we saw before, he probably wouldn't have cared for the people back then and would only do stuff to make himself happy. Kinda like an Ebenezer Scrooge to his character. But that's the thing, he's not just grumpy, and he does care for his people. He will do the best he can to make his people satisfied with their livelihoods. This did cause him his downfall, unfortunately, but he did reassure himself in the end, and even gave up his position to a higher elective, so he doesn't always have to put the weight under his belt. What a great episode this was. Don't get me wrong, his other appearances in Answer Time were great episodes and all, but I think this one really shows the best of his character, and that he's not just a grumpy old storybot like everyone says he is. He may not be as well known as the other 4 storybots, but he still has a heart of gold of his own. What a Chad. Before we get to the other guys, I think it's worth noting that the characters also get their own devoted segments in Answer Time. In between the stories, we have little segments that focus on one of the main storybots, and each one of them explores more into their characters and what their true desires are. We have Beep being the commander of a spaceship, Bang being a lonely cowboy, Bing being his own superhero, Bo having her own world of unicorns and rainbows, and Boop being a smart detective. They really nailed down the characters in these segments. I think they served them justice here, staying true to their characters. Pretty good addition overall. Then we have our returning characters. Hub and Bub make their big return as mischievous as ever, sometimes actually affecting the plot in some episodes, giving Beep a run for her money.
Oh, come on, Hub and Bub. I'm not falling for that one again.
It never gets old, does it? And of course, we have Franklin, the fun fact wannabe. He mostly remains untouched from his previous incarnation. It is sad that we never got to see more of his character in the series, but hey, if he's not broken, then there's no need to change him. Still a great character though. But what's a new series without a new cast of characters? We have a smorgasbord of new characters in this series. I won't go through all of them, however, as there are way too many characters to count and will make this video double in length, but I will go over some of the more important ones. First we have Gob and Goop, the 2 knuckleheads of the series. They're in charge of the archive department, but they are extremely lazy. They will do the absolute minimalistic work possible and will always find a way to escape their work, which explains why the archive department is always such a mess. But can you really blame them here? It's kind of boring working for the archive department. It's not like the engine department or math department where lots of activity happens. Here, nothing really significant happens. You just watch over the archive materials like a security guard or something, and that's pretty much it. Kind of a boring job if you ask me. But these 2 guys still try to have fun from time to time, like playing card games or getting ice cream for each other. Sure, they are lazy, but at least they try to find some enjoyment in their work, even if it doesn't necessarily make them good workers. Still enjoyable characters though. Then there's Ada Ada Pattycakes. She's in charge of the math department, and she's very proud of it. She absolutely loves math and makes it a personal hobby of hers. She's a pretty interesting character overall. Actually, I take that back, I kinda hate her. She constantly uses math as a way of cheating in events, and she brutally slaves her lab mice to run her own machines. And even if they're not working at all, and taking a mandatory break, I may add, she still has the guts to say that they're doing a terrible job.
What an asshole!
Before I talk about the storylines, I'd like to add that this series is the first of its kind to feature a localized British dub, having an entire recasting of all the characters to fit a more British tone for the show. With the exception of the celebrities, all the characters were changed to have new voice actors. And what do I think of these new voices? I don't really like it that much. I mean, no offense to any of the British voice actors who worked on the show, especially Alistair Cope, the voice actor of Bing, who quoted that he had an absolute blast recording his character, and I'm sure he did. But when comparing their voices to the original voice actors, I don't think they serve them justice here. It's like all the characters lost that sense of effort that the original voice actors were incredibly well known for. I'm not saying that they're bad per se, but they don't really fit the characters that we know so well, and it's sometimes jarring in some scenes, especially Bing. I mean, here are the original voice actors.
Whoa! Are you telling us that you're making pizza for a grizzly bear birthday party?
And you don't know how many pizza pies to make?
And here are the new voice actors.
Whoa! Are you telling us that you're making pizza for a grizzly bear birthday party?
And you don't know how many pizza pies to make?
Again, not bad voice acting overall, but I personally don't see these guys replacing any of the star characters in my opinion. My only guess as to why they made this change in the first place was for regional differences, like changing dollars into pounds.
But when I took it to the cashier to pay for it, they asked me for $42.60.
But when I looked at the bottom of the receipt for it, It said a total of £51 and 60 pence.
Or changing a public school system to a state school system.
Have you ever tried to make something happen quickly in a resource-constrained public school system, Bang? Have you ever tried to make something happen quickly in a resource-constrained state school system, Bang?
This is an optional choice, however, and doesn't really affect the overall viewing of the series. While I do appreciate the team making 2 English dubs, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't prefer the original US dub. I'll always prefer anything in its original intended presentation. Now let's get to the stories themselves. Every episode starts with the StoryBots answering lots of questions to the kids, and each one of these scenes includes some hilarious moments in the show. And that's just the icing of the cake before the main plotline happens. After these segments end, the team is approached with a level 3 question, as they call it.
Hey gang, we've got a level 3 coming in.
And this is where we get introduced to the celebrity stars. Let's briefly mention them. The celebrities in Answer Time are part of the adults' appeal to the franchise. It's been a thing since Ask the StoryBots, so it's nothing new. Here they pose as the main challenge for the StoryBots, either trying to find out if something works or what a specific word means. Now I must say, some of these celebrities initially surprised me making a role on this show, some of them even appearing in major animated films. We have Josh Gad, the voice actor of Olaf from Frozen, Christian Bell, the voice actor of Anna, also from Frozen, Patton Oswalt, the voice actor of Remy from Ratatouille, and so many others. And they don't always have to portray as their real-life counterparts. They can also star as regular StoryBots too. My personal favorite one of the bunch, and the one that surprised me the most, was Tom Kenny, the legendary SpongeBob himself. He plays the internet wizard of the series, and I find it pretty funny since Tom Kenny himself is his very own internet wizard. Definitely a true highlight for sure. Getting back to the main plot, one of the 5 StoryBots gets sent out to find an answer, and lead the answer department after saying,
We are on the job.
We are on the job.
We are on the job.
We are on the job!
A little fun fact about this, the series was originally going to be called StoryBots on the Job, but was later changed to the more current StoryBots Answer Time. The reason for it is currently unknown, but it is an interesting novelty that the series had an alternate title. But I personally prefer the title Answer Time as it has more of a ring to it.
Answer time! Answer time! Answer time! Answer time! Answer time!
Answer time! Yeah! When are they gonna say Answer time?
I'm so sorry for that. We then enter Act 2. This is the part of the story where we don't really learn anything on what we're trying to learn. It's a mere diversion from the main story, having the StoryBots go on some of the craziest journeys that they've ever been on. They don't really learn anything useful here until they reach the 3rd act, which funnily enough, they break the 4th wall and reveal that format to the audience in one of the episodes.
You're here because you're part of a television program where the format of the show requires you to be involved in a meaningless montage before learning something useful in the 3rd act.
Okay, that was actually pretty hilarious. When they reach the 3rd act is where we actually get to learn about the subject of the episode. It can range from simple stuff like how bubbles are formed or how multiplication works, but then there are subjects that are usually not made for the kids. Like elements, for instance, is something that you typically learn in middle school or high school. Or taxes and stocks, something that's not comprehensible until your early adulthood. And you gotta keep in mind that this series is a preschool show, with extremely young audiences in mind. So seeing these topics being featured on a kid show of all things is incredibly innovative and revolutionary for them, and something that no other kid shows at the time even attempted aside from like Sesame Street or something. So when the StoryBots finally get the answer they're looking for, they return back to the answer department to tell them the whole story, and the episode ends with a sing-along song. Let's talk about them, shall we? The songs in StoryBots Answer Time are absolutely amazing. Just like with the previous series, they weren't kidding around in the music department. All the songs in Answer Time are brand new, and we have some new animations to go with it. And like what we saw before, all the animations are pretty unique and have their own taste to it. Heh, get it? But jokes aside, the music here is incredibly well made, and is thanks to the wonderful composers who made these songs. Some of these songs are incredibly catchy, and some of them, dare I say, are the best songs that I've ever heard in my life. Like, ever. Oh my god, this is so amazing! The amount of talent and choreography that went into these pieces made me cry on a few occasions. They've done it. They nailed nearly every single aspect about this show. The dialogue, the characters, the stories, the puns. It's all so fun and I just love it so much. Answer Time is a wild ride, but it couldn't have felt more complete. With all the praise that I'm giving Answer Time, you might be wondering why I'm ranking this below Ask the StoryBots. This was supposed to be a celebration for StoryBots' 10th anniversary, and some may see it as a technical improvement over the previous series. I made a poll a few months ago asking which of the two series the fans prefer, with the majority of people saying that Answer Time was the superior one. So with all these factors included, you'd think I ranked this series higher on the list. I'm sorry guys, but I just can't. Now hold on, before you start throwing your pitchforks and torches at me, I'm not saying that this is a bad series. In fact, it's a great one, an A-list cartoon for sure. I mean, I just spent the last 20 minutes talking about how great this show is. But despite all the positives I have for the series, I still have some problems. Now, these problems that I have don't necessarily affect my overall thoughts on the series, but they were a bit glaring the second time around. For starters, the whole setup for the show feels so disconnected from the previous series. We're all of a sudden thrown into this new setting with virtually no explanation. The StoryBots have a new office setup, and while it is cute and charming on its own, they don't ever touch upon on why they have a new setup in the first place. For a newcomer, it's not that big of an issue since they're completely new to the franchise, but as a longtime fan myself, and for many others, when we're so used to the established setting of the previous series for so long, this new setting kind of feels off-putting and alienates the audience without any proper explanations. But that's not the only thing that changed in this series, because believe me, there's a lot, including the operations of Team 341B as a whole. I mean, they are an answered team, right? As in they're supposed to answer questions as a team. So if they can now answer questions by themselves, then what's the point of them being an answer team in the first place? They still refer to them as a team.
Well, Team 341B is always here to help.
So, what's the point? That literally defeats the whole purpose of them being an answer team. While this does flesh out the characters more and make them more dynamic, which I do appreciate by the way, it also retcons the previously established history on them, making everything from Ask the StoryBots pretty much meaningless. Also, where's Hap? I haven't seen them throughout this entire series. Hub and Bub made their comeback and even Franklin appeared a few times, but Hap is weirdly MIA, and I honestly don't know why. We know he exists because they made a character profile of him in the same style as Answer Time, and he appeared in the spin-off show Super Silly Stories of Bo, which also featured Answer Time characters, but in Answer Time itself, he's nowhere to be seen. Oh wait, they did mention him. In just one scene. In a conversation between Bang and a random dog.
Hap is in trouble?
And that, my friends, is the only time he's mentioned in this entire series. It almost feels like we were robbed here. Hap is such an important character in the franchise. He's the first character you see in every episode in NASA StoryBots, and sets up the plot for every episode. So why did they feel the need to exclude him altogether? Did they not like him as a character, or did they not see any potential out of him? Again, no explanation is given, and it alienates the audience once again that Hap is no longer a main player in the series. And we're just left here contemplating our previous thoughts. But I think the most glaring issue with the series, strangely, is how they handle their cartoon logic. StoryBots has always been a cartoon, so there's bound to be some cartoon logic here and there, but Answer Time makes it the main gimmick of the series. Gone were the days of venturing into the outer world, escaping that realm of animation to reality, and exploring this new world that's filled with all these real places. Now they're all constrained inside the computer, and have all their adventures in the computer world itself, and while it does world build extremely well here, it sometimes makes things nonsensical at times, and it's very noticeable. Admittedly, some of these places are very fitting, like the archive department or the math department, which you can find in most computers. But then there are some places that just don't make any sense, like how there's somehow an old dilapidated temple inside a modern computer, or how that even though we're inside a computer, it is now possible for tornadoes to form even though there's no sky or enough condensation in the air to have one formed? Like, what? Why did they do this? That connection, that bond that StoryBots had with the real world is now broken. Now, nothing has to matter. Something doesn't make sense in the scene? I'll just explain away the animation, nothing wrong with that. Look, I'm not saying that cartoon logic is bad. If anything, I'm all in for it. But when your previous series was so heavily focused on realism and its realistic aspects, then why did the team decide to change everything from its past? Why change something that isn't broken? It's times like this where I question if this was an intentional move by the team, or if this was a decision by Netflix themselves. Because keep in mind, StoryBots is now fully owned by Netflix, and everything StoryBots related is in their power. So it's entirely possible that all these changes were made under Netflix's request. But it's just mere speculation at the moment. So do all these problems ultimately affect my viewing of the show? Of course not. The show is freaking amazing. What are you saying? Older fans won't be disappointed. Answer Time delivers a beautiful package start to finish, and there are so many elements that make it a true one-of-a-kind. And as the 10th anniversary of the franchise, they really did an outstanding job on this. Every fan whether old-timer or newcomer, will get something out of this. There's something in this series for everyone, and that's what makes it so special. And with the recent awards they just got from the Emmys, they honestly truly deserve it here, because they worked hard for it. I give StoryBots Answer Time a solid A. Definitely give this one a watch. You won't be missing out. Number 2. Ask the StoryBots. Ah yes, the series that started it all. Ask the StoryBots was a true marvel of its time. This was Jib Jab's first ever television series, and the first major project from the StoryBots. And what a strong start they had. This is considered to be one of the best kids shows in existence, receiving great reviews from both parents and critics. And throughout its lifespan, it was nominated for 18 awards, and won 5 of them, making this the most awarded show on this list. And I think it rightfully earned its spot here. There are a lot of great aspects about this show, and there's quite a few things to talk about. But don't worry, it won't take 30 minutes long like Answer Time. I promise. But this show has a lot of content to dive into, and an interesting history behind it. So let's take a trip down memory lane to where it all got its start in 2012, 11 years ago. If something's got you baffled, worry not. Just ask the StoryBots.
Just ask the StoryBots.
I think the production team from StoryBots had the most fun that they've ever had on a kids program. I mean, all the projects StoryBots made were fun to make, especially Answer Time. But I think they had the most fun working on this show, because of all the creative freedom they had at their disposal. This was made when the StoryBots team was initially an independent company, and because they were so small, they had more flexibility than most companies, allowing more freedom into the show. We see an abundance of practical effects in this show, and they're all incorporated brilliantly into these scenes. This can range from a huge amusement park crafted by hand, to a full art studio filled with messy drawings and paintings. And some of them can actually fool the audience at times. Like this scene, for instance, is not actually entirely animated, but rather 2 wheels being spun by a guy in the background. Or in this scene, does this background look animated to you? Nope. It's actually just a model submerged into water. Pretty seamless for the naked eye. Or how about the entire Planets episode? That background has got to be animated, right? Wrong. It's really just watercolor. That's it. From a practical standpoint, this is really impressive. Seeing all this work being made for a preschool show is incredibly remarkable and adds some much needed life to the show. And I wish we get to see more things like this in other modern kids shows. The team had loads of fun making and playing around with these sets, and it sure makes an impact for everyone, especially for people like me. An absolute highlight for sure. Now let's get to the structure of the series. Every episode starts with a question, and it's here where the creative process comes into play. In Netflix Junior's behind the scenes videos, the team revealed their thought process for making every episode.
To get started with storyboarding the episode, we were given a general outline. So we knew we had to answer the question, why do I have to brush my teeth?
We drew a whole lot of things and we just kind of decided on what we thought was the funniest.
After we had decided the full structure of the story, we all split up and we all thumbnailed our sections and did an animatic, which is where you take the storyboard drawings and you edit them into like a timed out film and you add temp sound effects, and then we just keep refining the animatic until it's time to actually produce and people start doing finished work to it.
And in true StoryBots fashion, you never really know what you're going to be expecting most of the time. Like in the example they just showed, when we're trying to learn why it's important to brush your teeth, we're placed in a Wild West setting inside the gums of a mouth, but this surprisingly works because of all the comedic effects put into it. Or when we're finding out where rain comes from, we're treated to an amusement park with lots of rides themed to water and rain. I mean, the whole park is a subtle reference to Disneyland itself. Or when we're trying to learn why we can't eat dessert all the time, we're placed in a campus-like environment, observing a frat party, and symbolizing sugar as alcoholic beverages. Yeah, this is f***ing real.
Alright, that's bad.
I also really like how this series progresses throughout its 3 seasons, like how it builds off each other, improving itself over the previous. The first season was the team's beginnings, and set the groundwork for the future seasons, seeing what works and what doesn't work for the series moving forward. Like how the StoryBots intentionally go to the wrong location when finding an answer to something, only to be dumbfounded in the process. I'm guessing the team didn't really like this after the first season, because it doesn't happen in the later seasons. There's also a change in animation too, at least for the 3D parts. The models appear to have been updated from the previous season, more resembling their 2D counterparts. I like this change, as it shows the team's dedication to make StoryBots more enjoyable for their audience by visually enhancing their model work. They didn't have to change it, but the fact that they changed it at all really shows how dedicated they are. It's those little details that give this show some life into it. It's pretty good stuff overall. Okay, now for the characters. We all know the team by this point. Beep is the leader and as bossy as ever.
Hey Beep, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Hey Beep, are we there yet? Hey Beep! Beep!
Bang is always relaxed and chill to everything.
Hey, Moonbeam!
Hey, Bang! What's up, my friend?
Bing is a little hyperactive pinball.
So Beep, why are we here? Where are we? Huh?
Bo is a character with lots of emotions.
Babies!
And Boop is the one that just says,
Boop.
They're once again great in this series, but this is where we see their main purpose as StoryBots, them being together as a team. This is more so an ensemble piece than anything else, as it's not just focused on one individual character, but all 5 of them simultaneously. And unlike Answer Time, where each Storybot gets their own individual adventure, they're pretty much inseparable here, and it's not the same if one Storybot were to be absent from the team. Space adventure. And if one Storybot were to be in complete peril, the team will go out of their way to rescue them, even if it takes longer to answer the question, or potentially risking their own lives as well. If one Storybot is going to die, then they'll all die as a team. They just can't stomach the idea of losing a team member, so they will sacrifice their own lives to avenge their lost one, because they really care for each other. A true team effort, if I do say so myself. I mentioned before that Team 341B got its start here, and this is how it came to be. Their first ever appearances were featured in the Animal songs back in 2013, but they didn't have any personalities at the time, and were just mere fill-ins to have someone dance with the animals. It wouldn't be until the release of the Emotions songs where we got to see more of their incorporated personalities. Each one of the members were assigned an emotion. Beep was happy, Bang was scared, Bing was silly, Bo was sad, and Boop was grumpy. This wouldn't be their only defining personality trait, as we saw in the later series, but this was what they had to work with, and the characters were soon set into motion. Designing the characters, on the other hand, was another story. As Jeff Gill simply put it,
when you've got characters that are so similar, you need a guide to kind of help show what makes them different. I mean, all of the StoryBot shapes are just a very simple half circle with a line in the middle and arms and legs.
This design choice was absolutely intentional. Animating is not an easy task, no matter what style you're trying to go for. So keeping your characters at a simple design makes things a lot more easier. And when they had to translate their characters into 3D, that extra dimension meant more work for the team. But again, keeping the designs very simple made it much more easier to animate. And with their strong personalities, they don't feel like they were cheaply made either. Which just goes to show that any simplicity you put in can go a really long way. There is one more element in this series, however, that I absolutely adore. Something that totally separates it from the rest of the series, and is the main reason why I rank this above Answer Time. And that's the realism aspect. By far, the best thing about Ask the StoryBots was its take on the real world. The other series from StoryBots were more focused on animation, characters, and funny humor. And while that's good in its own right, it didn't really feel like it had much of an identity back then. This series, however, is totally timeless, and is held to such a high regard by its fans, because of how realistic it is. This is why kids are drawn to it, why it stood out from its competition from every other high-energy kids cartoon, and why so many of us still like it all these years after childhood. We liked the little talking animated robots, of course, but it was the real-life universe that these characters lived in, and all the humans that were there to talk to them in person, that made it so convincing. StoryBots absolutely took place in the real world, with real-life scenarios. It honestly feels like you can just go outside your house and meet them for yourselves. That is undeniably the main draw from Ask the StoryBots, and the franchise as a whole. This show wasn't trying to copy off another kid's cartoon. It once again tried to be its own thing, and that's the greatest part of all. It's original and well made. If you're a newcomer to StoryBots, or if you just want to marathon StoryBots in general, then I think this is the perfect option for you. It not only balances out all the elements together, but it also makes a good first impression for the StoryBots, and one that truly left its mark in kids show history. And with all the awards it received, it's nothing but pure goodness, and why I rank it so very high. It's filled with creativeness and lots of talent. I give Ask the StoryBots an A+. You absolutely need to see this show. It's just that amazing. Go watch it already. Here we are, guys. The number 1 spot. If you've been following along since the start of this video, you'll know which one that is. Of all the series and specials that I've watched just for this video, which totaled up to 22 constant hours of StoryBots content, this pick is not only the best of them all, but it's just so amazing on its own that you'll just have to keep watching it over and over again. For those of you who are wondering what this number 1 pick is all about, well, this one, surprisingly, revolves around Christmas. A StoryBots Christmas. Some of you may be a bit surprised that I ranked this special as my number 1, and before I got around to seeing it, I was surprised too. I came around this special at a weird time. I just got done watching a space adventure, and you already know how god-awful it was. So when I found out that there was another StoryBots special, I had pretty low expectations at first, and knowing it was a Christmas special didn't help either. Most Netflix Christmas specials are pretty formulaic and, quite frankly, kinda dull. I mean, there are some good ones, but they all feel the same and are just normal episodes with Christmas sprinkled into it. It almost feels kind of forced here, like they just had to make a Christmas special because, well, Christmas, obviously. So I just assumed that StoryBots would fall under that same category. Boy, how wrong could I have been. This not only blew away my initial expectations, but it took something as boring as a Christmas special and turned it into something that's enjoyable and heartwarming, which is why I firmly believe that this special is the best one. And no, I'm not being biased at placing the special as number 1, since it just so happens to be the Christmas season right now. I really mean it when I say that this is the best I've ever seen, and I think it truly deserves the gold medal here. But I mean, come on, how can this one special be 2 of the best series from the franchise? Well, I'll tell you how. Grab your hot chocolates, everyone, and let's take a look into how this special became a beautiful masterpiece. This is a StoryBots Christmas. Let's jump right into why I think this is the best special of all. Bo. Just Bo. She is the single defining quality that makes the special top tier for me. I briefly mentioned before that this is Bo's best performance. It wasn't in Answer Time, it wasn't in Ask the StoryBots, and it wasn't even in her very own spin-off show. No. Her best performance, in my opinion, was the Christmas special. And here's why. The special starts off like every other episode. Hap is answering questions as usual, he wraps some Christmas presents, and even decorates his own Christmas tree, only for it to get destroyed in true StoryBots fashion. Then the main team comes in, and this is where they give their interesting taste in caroling.
Caroling.
And it's here where the main story begins. A kid named Isla asks the StoryBots on what they think the best Christmas present of all is, and the StoryBots then start talking about what they received as the best Christmas presents of all. But while this is happening, Bo suddenly realizes something, and an awful thought occurs in her head. She notices that none of her friends are talking about the gifts that she gave to them. Maybe they just forgot about her, or maybe she really does make the worst Christmas presents of all. Maybe she isn't a good friend to them. This would explain why her friends are not paying enough attention, because they really don't care for her. With this awful thought in mind, she goes back to her room to think about how she can improve herself. But immediately after she left, the team then reveals who makes the best Christmas presents of all. And that is none other than... This couldn't have been more damaging to Bo's image, and is felt to such a considerable amount here, to a point where Bo has lost complete faith with all her friends, and even starts to throw away some of her previous presents. You really feel sorry for Bo here, and I think this is the strongest she's ever been emotion-wise. She then stumbles upon a small snow globe that she made, and what better way to make good presents than at Santa's workshop? She grabs her stuffed unicorn and heads off to the North Pole to find her answer on how to make good Christmas presents. When she arrives, she finds the workshop to be completely empty, with only a crying elf for company. It is revealed that Santa has gone missing, and the elves can't finish the presents on time without him. She then sees a big cookie box that reads, Mr. Meadows Cookies, made in New York City. If Santa were to be somewhere, then it'd be the Big Apple. Bo then heads off to the big city to find the red guy himself, and her quest has only just begun. Meanwhile, back at the answer department, the rest of the team try to find Bo themselves, but were unsuccessful. It wasn't until they found the travel logs through the tubes and found out that Bo went to the North Pole, so they all head off together to find their lost friend. When Bo finally reached New York City, she finds the exact place on the cookie box and heads on in. And when she went inside, she found, to no one's surprise, Santa Claus. He is played by the late Ed Asner, who's funnily enough also played some Santas of his own, and is most famous for playing a role in Pixar's Up as Carl Fredricksen. But the Santa he portrays here is a little bit different than what we're used to. Instead of his jolly outside persona that we saw hundreds and hundreds of times again, he's now more depressed and decrepit, giving up all his hopes and dreams that he once had. When Bo then asks why he's here and not at the North Pole making presents for everyone, he explains bluntly that the presents became harder to make, and for an old guy like him, it was too much to handle. He even vents to Bo on one of the Christmas presents he has to make.
Do you know how hard it is to make a single Game Box 380?
That's our current generation, folks. They never respect the elders. With this newfound information, Bo relays her troubles on Santa. She didn't find the answers she was looking for, but instead had bigger troubles with Santa Claus. And from the looks of it, it appears they'll be there for quite a while, doing absolutely nothing together. The team then arrives in New York City, and it's here where we're treated to a big montage of them trying to find Bo throughout the city. But just like the previous time, they end up empty-handed. I mean, how are they going to find their friend in one of the biggest cities in the world? It's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's nearly impossible. After hours upon hours of searching, they're about ready to throw in the towel. They start to lose confidence in each other, and with the looming fate that's about to come, they may never get to see their friend again, all because they simply left her out for themselves. How sad. Of course, this is a kid's show. Bo is found almost immediately, as well as Santa eating some cookies on a bench.
Bye, guys.
This is a really heartwarming scene from the special. The scene where all 5 of them are together, and them sharing love for one another, is really what takes the cake for me. Bo admits to everyone that she's not good enough, and wants to make good presents to please her friends. They all reassure her that that's not the case, and that she really does make the best gifts for everyone, and they are very grateful for it. But even if she didn't make the best gifts in the world, it wouldn't have mattered. What matters most is that they're together, as a team, as friends, and as family. I think that's why we're so attached to these characters, because we see them as family members, someone you can just talk to when you're feeling down, or if you want to vent your troubles on someone, or just plain chit-chat for fun. They'll always be there for you. And Bo is a great example here. Her performance throughout this entire special is easily the best thing about it. Her emotions and feelings don't feel forced or out of place here. It's all natural, fresh, and genuine. A voice actor who cares is what makes a great character, and Erin Fitzgerald really had a blast when voicing her star character. This is her favorite franchise, no question. It's so organic and free from most kids shows, and that she can basically do whatever she wants to her character. There are no restrictions or hurdles to jump across, it's just complete freedom, and that's what makes Bo so special to her. Now, I might be totally wrong for saying this, but I think this special really inspired her to become more involved in the series. Because after this special, we see Erin voice more characters in the series, and this will carry on into the later series StoryBots Answer Time. If it wasn't for that special, we would have never have gotten more of Bo's character in Answer Time, and we certainly would have gotten an entire spin-off dedicated to her character. And that's what makes the special stand out amongst the rest, because it permanently set the grounds for the future of StoryBots, and Erin played a major role in their success. That is an accomplishment worth celebrating. Bo is not the only one to get great characterization. Santa also gets great characterization. We always knew Santa Claus as the go-lucky happy type who never fails to impress the children. Not in this special. Santa has become more depressed and sad about his life, mainly from all the labor disputes he's been receiving.
I've got a 1950s labor force working in a volatile global economy.
I like to headcanon that this Santa is the same one who played an elf, since he's also played by Ed Asner. Before, he was a more caring figure back then, and had a spot in his heart even for people like Buddy. And then just 14 years later, he decides to give all that up and relies on milk and cookies for the rest of his life. It's actually quite ironic and hysterical when you think about it. When he saw Bo getting reunited with her friends, it reminded him of how he used to be when he was younger, and giving care to all the children back then. He realizes that Christmas is not just about the presents, but about the care he gives to the children, and sharing that care with pretty much everyone. And for once, Santa was in the wrong, something that rarely happens in any Christmas special. And because of his recent activities, and very little time he has, it seems a bit too little, too late to save Christmas. He couldn't have felt more ashamed for his life. But the StoryBots have one more idea, one that could save this entire operation. Santa then returns to his workshop, but he's brought some friends over. And by friends, I mean the entire StoryBot population. Every single StoryBot is here, and they all help Santa by sending presents to every single house on the street. And in no time at all the presents got delivered before Christmas morning. The operation was a complete success, and the StoryBots and elves cheered with joy. Both of the star characters learned something of value here. They both learned about the true meaning of Christmas, and both come out to be strong characters than they were prior. After this, the StoryBots then answered the question for Isla, and then returned back home just in time for the holidays. And that's where the special ends. Overall, I thought this special was pretty surprising to me. It nails every single aspect to near perfection, and the two lead characters are the strongest that I've ever seen. Aaron plays a flawless performance in Bo, and Asner plays a fantastic Santa. A truly remarkable outing for the StoryBots franchise. You'll never see anything like it. Sadly, however, at least to my knowledge, this would mark Ed Asner's last ever appearance portraying the Red Guy himself before his unfortunate death in 2021. And as a paying tribute to all his astounding performances throughout his career, may this fellow legend rest in peace. You will be missed. I didn't come into this special with high expectations at first. After seeing how god-awful the space adventure was, I was expecting this special to be just like it, if not worse. But when I finally sat down and watched it all for the very first time, I was wrong. This was more than just your average Christmas special on Netflix. It combines everything that we love from StoryBots and creates a beautiful package that any age can enjoy. And at the end of the day, that's all we really need StoryBots to be. A cute, silly, animated franchise that can be enjoyed by pretty much anyone. And this special is nothing more than a true masterpiece. Which is why I give A StoryBots Christmas the best rating out of everything else on this list. An S tier. This is without a doubt the best thing StoryBots has produced, and it blew away my expectations as a StoryBots fan. If you haven't already watched this amazing special, do yourself a favor and go watch this damn special, because I assure you, you will be pleasantly surprised. I think there's one thing that became very obvious since the start of this channel. I really love StoryBots. Like, a lot. I still to this day believe that this franchise is the best, if not the most definitive kids show in existence. But what I find surprising is that the general public doesn't even know about the success of this show. You go online nowadays and you can't really find anything of note here. No reviews, no fan content, no silly clips, there's really nothing to see here. It's like it never even existed. And it's mainly that reason why this channel was created in the first place. It wasn't just made to make StoryBots easier to watch online, but also to spread the love to this obscure franchise. And there's one driving force that can really put this show into the eyes of the entire world. And that's the fans. You wouldn't believe how much power we as fans have that can compete with the original series. The more that fans can give exposure to this show, and the more love that we can give to the people that made this amazing creation, then it would have made a lasting impact for everyone watching, because it truly deserves all the love. This wasn't a soulless show that was made to have a corporate mascot to sell merchandise. It wasn't an effort to cash off on an existing franchise to make a quick profit. It wasn't even made for a specific audience either. StoryBots in its purest form was a vision by two brothers who had a true passion for animation and wanted to share that passion to the world, using personified robots to do so. And all the stories and characters and the universe they created with them were untouchable. Evan and Greg Spiridelis did not talk down to their children. The stories they made were as much for the adults that watched the episodes with the kids as they were for the kids themselves. And pretty much everything from their entire catalog was very true to that vision. Well, maybe not that one, but still. Anyone who has even a passing interest in animation can see the appeal of this franchise. And I hope with this video that I made, I was able to help you all see it too. These little guys have done more for me in my life than I can even put into words, and I honestly hope it stays that way forever. And that, my friends, is my complete ranking of all the StoryBots series and specials. I gotta be totally honest with you guys. This was probably one of the most difficult challenges that I've ever put myself upon. Usually when I make reviews, I tend to look back at other reviewers to get inspiration for the subject I'm going to be talking about. But since no one has ever talked about StoryBots to this scale before, I basically had to make my entire script from scratch, which was admittedly a very tedious task to do. And there was a point in time where I nearly dropped the whole video entirely. But I pressed on, because I wanted to prove a point. A point where any general audience can fully understand without any elongated explanations. If you've made it to this point in the video, then you must obviously be interested in StoryBots. So I encourage you to take that next step and check these series and specials out for yourselves. And what's that? I have all the series and specials ready to go on YouTube right now? Why, yes I do! Here it is in all its glory. I've uploaded all the StoryBots series and specials up on YouTube from Ask the StoryBots to StoryBots Answer Time, all publicly available ready to watch right now. They're not perfect in HD quality or anything like that, but they are consistent and are much easier to find online nowadays. So feel free to do whatever you like with them. Put them in a video, make your own review out of it, make funny clips, do whatever your heart desires. Because this is my gift to you all. I am by no means trying to convince you to join our cult, so to speak. All I'm simply doing here is to spread the message of why we as fans appreciate StoryBots so very much. We love it for its different styles of animation. We love it for its unique characters. We love it for its amazing music and score. And so many others. And as the eagle-eyed viewer as I am, I must return the favor to these two legendary brothers. I love you guys too, and you deserve 5 stars.